team was a pretty natural thing for me to be assigned to. So the first year in '72, I was assistant coach, and then the second year I became the head coach in 1973.
And we'll talk more about it a little bit later. Your book that comes out later this year in August is Fierce, My Fight for Nothing Less. And that certainly is an unbelievable story that we're getting just a little taste of here, but it will certainly be delved into in greater depth in that outstanding book that's coming out later this year. But you're just 27 years old, 1 year of being an assistant basketball coach under your belt, and you've got this opportunity to be the head basketball coach. Was it intimidating to you? Were you just strong-minded and feel like this is absolutely my place to be? What were the feelings like when you took over the program?
Well, I was really excited, and I felt like I had something to offer, because back at that time, in the United States, we were still playing the Rover game. And in some states, they were playing, for girls basketball, the half-court game. And having experienced internationally, the only game that you played overseas was the 5-player game. And so I felt when I had the opportunity to work with the young women in the PE department that it was exciting for me to give them something that maybe they hadn't experienced, hadn't been taught before. So I wasn't intimidated in that respect. But when I became the head coach, obviously there was more pressure to set some goals and to find other players. We had no scholarships, so it was about putting a sign up and looking for walk-ons to help finish out the team. And we didn't have much of a schedule back then. But it was exciting for me until 1974, when it was intercollegiate and we were going to be scheduling teams outside of Kansas.
Well, you can see it in your record. You only played 19 games in your first year as a head coach, but then it would develop, and you basically, after just a couple of years of getting the program rolling and up off the ground, had tremendous success. Year after year, you were winning 20 games and making postseason tournaments and everything else. You mentioned your mentor, your coach, Carol Ekman. Is that where you got maybe some of your major philosophies about the game?
Well, I think maybe Carol, but also Alberta Lee Cox. It's always a chance to learn things when you go abroad and you watch other countries and how they play, and you watch their practices. But there was a way of working with athletes that probably carried over the most for me. I watched how Cal Ekman handled her players. She was very respectful. Alberta Lee Cox, the way she carried herself, along with how she disciplined the United States team when we went overseas. Her absolute focus on handling a young United States team, making sure that we understood we were representing our country, and also that we had that challenge of trying to do a good job. I think, you have a combination of these things that become a part of you.
As you're going through the ranks and doing the difficult job of starting this, basically, and you're the athletic director of the women's program there too, in addition to being the basketball coach, what was it like having those two dual roles at a time when you're having to fight so hard for facilities and things like that?
Well, when I look back, Danny, I'm so thankful that it all happened while I was young, because I could never do it today. But to have been named the first women's athletic director, to carry that position along with being the head basketball coach, it was a challenge, but I was so excited. I had the vision. I felt that we could do some things that, we all took a lot of pride in relative to our men's program. And then, I also that first year started women's track and field.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that we didn't have a women's track and field program was unbelievable to me. Our men's track and field program was exceptional. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had really 3 hats that I wore. It was a challenge. And my book talks about all the things I had to go through in order to get positions, space in an Allen Fieldhouse. Money was always very limited. So you had to figure out how to stretch it, finding coaches. It goes on, building facilities. There was nothing in Allen Fieldhouse that existed for women other than the women's bathrooms.
Wow, that's a really, really big challenges that were overcome, and part of the progress in making the program even more successful was your recruiting, and in the late 70s and early 80s, your recruitment of Lynette Woodard, who obviously would go on to be one of the, if not the greatest women's college basketball player ever. Talk about the relationship you developed with her and bringing her to the University of Kansas.
Well, first of all, Adrian Mitchell was my first major player that I signed. She was from Kansas City, Missouri. And Adrian was a WNIT All-American, and she really led our team until we were able to convince Lynette Woodard to stay in the state and play at the University of Kansas. Now, my daughter really takes credit for recruiting Lynette to KU. She saw Lynette play. I think one of her Lynette State tournament was played over there at Lawrence High School.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter went up to her and told her that, you need to play for my mother. But anyway, to make a long story short, recruiting Lynette was really important. The fact that she really understood how I thought our educational program was, that we were building. She knew that she had a chance to come in and help our program. It was a turning point. We became a national program when she signed.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Hey Kansas City, Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing back for another beautiful springtime in Kansas City. We are proud to announce our renewed partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City. Starting in 2024, a portion of every job sold will be donated to a cause close to my heart. I was a big, and I encourage you to volunteer. And if you hire us for service on your residential or commercial roof, you'll know that a portion of the profits will go to a great cause. So call us at 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
We're here at the 23rd Street Brewery with Matt Llewellyn. And Matt, you've got a great menu. You fine-tuned it a little bit. Great beers. There's always something to be had to put a smile on your face at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Oh, you bet. And Brian Haney would always say, come have the Haney turkey stack. Bill Self would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. I would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. It's great. Great mac and cheese, buffalo mac and cheese. And we've got a ton of other menu items that you're sure to love. We've got a great brewer who's brewing great beer. And if you like craft beer, our guy's the way to go. And we're making great drinks, too. There's a great new distillery in the state of Kansas called Llewellyn Distillery. My brother's doing that. He makes some great whiskey and vodka and rum, and we're doing all kinds of great drinks with those beverages.
Always fun to be had at the 23rd Street Brewery, 23rd and Castle. Come on by anytime and have a good time.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business on Kansas City's #1 rated podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Our guest is Marian Washington. Her book, Fierce, is coming out later this year, and we're just getting a taste of that story that will be chronicled in detail in that book that comes out on August 5th, the day before my birthday. So it'll be a birthday present for me, that's for sure. And So it's, you mentioned now you're on the national map as a program, and winning became a regular thing for you, but not necessarily without challenges or people saying that maybe you could do a little bit better. But you're making the NCAA tournament, you're winning games on a regular basis, you're winning 20 games. Through all this time, what and all the hard work you had to do, as you mentioned, as a young lady, what was the personal side of it, and how much of a toll did all these hats you were wearing take on that?
Well, I was raising my daughter and trying to basically help raise other young women.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hardest part, Danny, was that, as you mentioned, you had critics that felt that I should have, that maybe I should be doing some things better. It just seemed as though there were individuals afraid that if they supported women's athletics, it was going to take away from men's athletics. And that really set us back a lot. Even when we talked about the media, instead of giving us credit for having accomplished some things that, if you looked at it face on, it was really something incredible. When we didn't have money, when Lynette played, we still had walk-ons on the team to accomplish some of the things that we were accomplishing. Instead of them giving us some credit, they would try to compare us to the men, and I thought that was unfair. And so we just kept working. We kept trying to find athletes that believed in our program, that believed in what I was trying to build. And as a result, we had some good years, and I'm very happy about that. I saw facilities being built finally, and when I go to visit today and I look at how wonderful the facilities are for our women's programs, I'm just amazed, and I'm so proud that Kansas is, taking that leap and made that kind of commitment.
Well, you had another great run of form in the mid to late 90s and into just about the end of that decade, making the NCAA tournament 6 consecutive times. You made a Sweet 16. What do you think were the keys to that level of success at that point in time?
Again, I think that one of the things that I felt I was able to do was to connect to some players, and they happen to be really talented players. Tamika Dixon, Sharif Sampson, Lynn Pride, Angela Aycock, and oh my goodness, Angie Murphy now. Angie Snyder from Kansas City. So, to be able to bring in some of these athletes helped us to be able to compete on a national level. And the only drawback, really, the main drawback was that we just didn't have the money. We didn't have the budget. We were still trying to convince the administration that we deserved to go if we didn't make the AIAW tournament, that we certainly earned the right to go to the WNITs. And when you don't get a chance to have that postseason experience, it really hurts sometimes in recruiting and also in developing your program. But, those are challenges that we face. But in the end, we had players that loved Kansas, that was committed, that took a lot of pride in being able to compete and to win.
And as I mentioned, that run of NCAA tournaments, including 2 Sweet 16s, was 9 years, and that came up to the year 2000. I was around for a couple of those years. I consider traveling with your team and seeing firsthand how you treated these young ladies. I did a lot of men's college basketball. I can say that I never saw as much studying going on as I did when your ladies were on the road and taking the buses and planes and things like that. After that period of time, though, in the early 2000s, you had a couple of rougher seasons, and eventually you would decide for health reasons to step aside. What was that challenges of those times, and what led you to decide to step away and pursue other things?
Well, first of all, Danny,